myself over here on this bench for a second until a handful of people show up here. I'm on Wi-Fi. I learned how to do that, so I think I'll have a clean stream today. Two, 4, 6, 7 shot. I am sitting on a bench inside the Kentucky Air Museum on the outskirts of Lexington right now. This is how I occupy myself on the road when I have downtime. And I'm just seeing if somebody wants to jump in here and be part of this. Huh. They don't let you go out on the ramp. There's only one jet out there. Like I said, right now I'm just sitting here on a bench waiting. 11 o'clock on a Saturday. Probably not the best time to do this. This thing needs a paint job. Okay, I got one. The Kentucky Air Museum. I'm just sitting here on a bench waiting for a couple of people. Oh, he's gone. That was quick. Let's see what we got over here. Where's the switch? Where's the switch on this? I can't remember. It's been a while. We're hanging out at the Kentucky Air Museum. I'm waiting for one or two more people to show up and I'll start this. But I am in the outskirts of Lexington, Kentucky right now. I'm kind of burning some daylight en route to Illinois for a drop-off here on Tuesday. So, okay, I got 8 people we can go from here. Again, Kentucky Air Museum on the southwest of Lexington, Kentucky. Came in here for a quick tour, walked around, took a look at the place, but let's start with the basics. That right there is what I flew in the Army. That is an AH-1 Cobra attack helicopter. If anybody has any technical questions, you just throw them right out there because I can answer them. Let me show you something here. 6715759. That's the year of production. It was originally a G model in Vietnam. It was refurbed as an F model, which is what I flew. My aircraft was 6715715. So we're getting real close to my airframe again. And they took the door handle off. This is the co-pilot inner seat in the front. This little attachment here was for radar jammers. I don't recall we ever used them. This is the sliding system from the pilot, the co-pilot in the front. That is 36 inches wide, cockpit. 3-barrel 20mm cannon. See, they painted an eyeball. This little hump right here, it actually sticks out, if you notice. That sticks out because the flight controls would bump into it. That's why they did that, in case you're wondering. And for the record, yeah, I used to be that skinny. Not gonna lie. One of the strange things about this aircraft is there's the step. And yes, it's dark in here, by the way. The step, the pilot gets in on this side, the co-pilot gunner gets in on the other side. You have to walk directly in front of the weapons, which is like in contradiction of everything you've ever heard in your life. But yeah, that's how they did it. Technology of the era. You see that attachment on the helmet that goes up to the railing? That's how the aircraft knew where the guns were. The weapon systems would aim with your head. That's the tow launchers, the missiles reload between here and here. You pull this pin, this little lever, you put 4. And this is a 7-shot rocket pod. We never had those. We had 19-shot pods, but honestly, they're a complete freaking waste of time because you can't shoot rockets in modern war because you can't climb up and shoot them because you'll get shot down. But this is the old airframe here. That's just a big engine. Restoration in progress. Cruise over here. USS Hornet. It's just a display. That was a World War II carrier that actually got sunk, and I think they revived it. Oh, it had to do with the space program. Okay, the recovery of Apollo flights. That's kind of cool. Something I didn't know. That is the T-38. It's a trainer plane jet the military used for a million years. It used to be the Thunderbirds flew them. And over here, I'll show you the size difference between a T-38. And I am down to 0 people. 2 again. The T-38 is tiny, comparatively speaking. I didn't realize that. They got a couple civilian planes hanging on the ceiling here. Let's see if I can get an angle on this. That is a gyrocopter. And the concept of a gyrocopter is you have a pusher prop. Oh, light's in the wrong place. Hold on here. Is you have a pusher prop. And you have that rotor blade that's not attached, not powered. It just leans backwards, and you're basically pushing yourself in an auto rotation. It's primitive, but it works. That's the A4 Skyhawk. The Blue Angels use those for the longest. These have been around since the early 60s. There's some countries that still fly these operationally, like Argentina, for instance. There's your refueling probe, right there. Just wandering around. Ooh, oh, these, that's a 20 millimeter right there. That's a 20 millimeter cannon. Seen those. It's been a while. Not sure why this is here. I flew Jet Rangers, which is the civilian version of the OH-58, except we had tall landing gear. Not sure where you are. Wait a minute. Hold on. Sorry. Had to bail off 1 second. Yeah, they have the little stubby skids. So this is like sitting on the floor. But this is a cockpit setup. Really familiar. Ooh. So we'll walk around here for a second.
How did they start this?
You want the starting procedures?
It is a slightly complicated process, but it's not that hard, or else we wouldn't let soldiers do it.
Yeah.
My cousin's a pilot.
Technically?
He is in pilot school.
Okay.
Coleman,
For flying what?
Huh?
You want me to show you how to start one of these?
Yeah.
All right. You know, you can stay right there. Here, hold this. I'll let you hold this for a second and point. I'm actually recording. Right here, this is the throttle. All right. You push this button. You got to roll. Let's see. Throttle on, throttle off. I'm trying to remember the process here because I haven't flown these in a million years. But here it's going to click unless they've disabled it. The engine's missing, but there's a place where you set it, and then you push this button down with the battery on. You push and hold, and it winds up your engine, and you get to a certain spot, and you let it go, and it starts. But it's manual. It's not like a car. You can't just get in and go, boom. The newer ones just click. But it has to do with this and that start button. And the Hueys, remember the big Hueys? There's a trigger you have to pull. Same concept. Let me run it back out of your way. But that's, yeah, there's no engine in here, so there's no linkage to actually find the detail. But that's it.
Coleman, come here.
That was funny. And this right here is an F4 Phantom. Jets, aircraft in general military aircraft come in different generations. Gen 1 is the World War I fighter planes, the bi-wing, piston-powered, slow motion. You're fine. 100-mile-an-hour planes. Gen 2 is the World War II fighter planes, which had the mono wing, still piston powered propeller, but really fast. Gen 3 were the jets, the F-80, F-86, MiG-15. The Phantom, the F-4 Phantom, actually came out in 1957 and was the tail end of Gen 3. Kind of bled over into Gen 4. And Gen 4 is what I grew up with, the F-14 Tomcat, think Top Gun, and the F-15, stuff like that, the MiG-21s. This is living proof that if you give a brick enough power, it'll start and it'll fly. Because these things are horribly unaerodynamic. The wings were really stubby. But it flew. And one of the many design faults of this airframe is it didn't have a gun. At the time, that mindset where guns were outdated, missiles were the name of the game, but missiles were super primitive back then. So they had the Sidewinder, first generation heat-seeking Sparrow missile. And talking to the guys that flew these, you had to get behind somebody. You had to stay there and lock on. It took like 5 seconds. Whoa.
Thank you.
That's cool. It took 5 seconds of the approximately being, which is forever in combat, to get it to lock on, and it would make this funny noise. And then you pulled the trigger, and you had 11% chance of hitting your target. Sometimes the missile just went off into space. They call it moonshot. Sometimes it fell off the rail and just disappeared. So it really cut down on their ability to shoot people down at that time. And some pilots, because it has hard points underneath, some pilots would have them mount a 20 millimeter cannon that didn't have gun sights. They just line up, pull the trigger, and then just pull the aircraft through and try to shoot them down that way. It's out of frustration, which I get it. But that is the tail end of Gen 3 working its way into Gen 4 fighters. They had these operational until the early 90s in some National Guard units. This is a Cessna 150 real quick. And there is no way in God's green earth this fat boy could fit in there. That thing is freaking huge, tiny. Okay, now, this is what I was talking about. F-14 Tomcat, all right, compared to the T-38. I'm up here. My eyeballs are here. I'm 6'4". My eyeballs are here, okay? Let's walk over to the F-14. My eyeballs are here. See the difference? Massive, massive difference. This was one of the top Gen 4 aircraft. Again, Top Gun. Reference point. Sweep wing. The wings come out for takeoff and retract for landing purposes. That was the AIM, what do they call this one? This Phoenix missile? This one could go 120 miles. They inadvertently used these to shoot down satellites they found out later on as time went on. But these things are humongous. One of the chief maintenance guy used to work on these in the Navy when he was in. But look at the size of the exhaust on that thing. Don't get in there. Oh, well, I took the engine out, actually. There's your arrestor hook. And he said that he was on a carrier, don't remember which one, but he was telling me that, in the course of aviation, you have a few experiences you never forget. And being on an aircraft carrier, he recalled, there's certain sounds you hear all the time. Jets hit the deck, and as soon as they hit the resting cable, they go full throttle in case the cable breaks so they miss, so they can do a kind of a missed approach. And he hears a jet land and go idle, and he doesn't hear the sound he's looking for. And an F-14 went off the deck, and he's looking out the window, or out the big open bay, and it shoots off the deck, and he's looking up the tailpipe, and he got to look inside the tailpipe as the afterburner ignited, like lighting a barbecue pit. And he says that's kind of like looking down the barrel of a gun watching it fire. It's just something you don't get to do in this lifetime. He said it was a wild experience. The gun on this thing is under here somewhere, but I can't find it. Because again, they put a 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon somewhere on the airframe. It was underneath. It only had like 300 rounds, but it was underneath. But let me move on from here. See how his wings are out? They're way away from the airframe. And as they park it in here, they're folded back. That's the difference. This little hot rod over here, the whole kit plane thing started in the 1970s, and this is one of the original kit planes. Burt Rutan, the Very Easy. And if you remember, back in the 90s, no, it was 1985 or 6, he built a plane called the Voyager that flew around the world nonstop without refueling, which is absolutely incredible. It took up quite a few days. It was a 2-cockpit. You can look that up. There's probably videos about it. Took off with 1,200 gallons of fuel and landed with 38, and they were in the plane for days. Again, Fat Boy would not fit unless I cut the floor down. But front seat, back seat, neat idea. Pusher prop, the noise, the sound, everything's behind you. It's a canard wing. Technically, this aircraft won't stall because the front end stalls first and it just captures itself. And people would always ask why the fixed gear and the nose gear down. If you could retract the tail end, the rear end, it would look awesome. But you do that because all the weight is right here, and if you get out of the aircraft, climb out of the cockpit, it's going to fall over. It literally, you get out and it's just going to fall on its tail. So they designed this, and it's the first time I ever saw one of these on a ramp. A guy got in it, he pushes a button, and electrically, a wheel, you see poking out a little black dot there? The wheel extends and it stands up, and I was standing next to it. That thing started moving, and I almost jumped out of my pants. It scared the crap out of me. And then they take off and they fold it back up and they fly. But if they could just find a way of making those disappear and fly, that would be that'd be sexy looking. But these fly really fast on really small, light engines, which are really good design. But they don't production line them. These are all kit. There's the motor right there. Little tiny 4-banger. Look at that. 85 horsepower. Little tiny motor. That's beautiful. This must be a... Wow. That's beautiful. The paint job on that. What does it say? Right there. Max speed, 195 miles an hour. Cruise, 165. Empty weight, takeoff weight. It holds 24 gallons of gas and can fly 850 miles. That's that's pretty awesome. And this is the mock-up front end. I'm not a mock-up, excuse me. They said they got their hands on this. A3 Sky Warrior. Part of a strategic bomber. This is not one that I'm familiar with. Look you up in here. Ooh, we got a camera to make sure nobody's in here doing anything, right? Right there. Please don't enter the cockpit. Big old clunky yoke. Nope, I wouldn't fit. There's a radio guy's position. Okay, there's what it looks like. Alright, coming back out. Yeah, this sounds like late 50s stuff. Oh, we're going to cruise over here. This is the, I think these are people, veterans and pilots and whatnot, yesteryear. A memorial for some older people that worked here. Okay, this is more of a civilian. Okay, this is why tickets are expensive. It takes a lot of fuel to make that thing turn. Good God Almighty, that's higher than a basketball hoop. Wow. I came around the corner. I was just doing a quick inventory. I said, that looks way too small. World War I. Yeah, this is a mock-up. It's a 7/8 scale. But something they did show here, early in the war, they put machine guns up here to go over the propeller, and then the Germans invented an interrupter that actually interrupted the shot and would go through the propellers. And they shot a plane down and found the little interrupter pin that would go up and down like this when the prop went by. And they copied it, but they did put little metal plates behind the prop so it wouldn't chew it up in case you had accidental charge. Wow, what is this? Beautiful. A 1947 Stinson Voyager. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, how you doing? Metal, polished. Wow. Gorgeous paint. And this is the big old makeup of the Wright Flyer. And that, you notice, that's literally how they flew it. He was laying down inside of it. One engine with two props. And I remember they used to sell a t-shirt that showed the Wright Flyer. The first flight it took was 120 feet. And it was a picture of them standing behind the plane. And it said, moments after their historic 120-foot flight, they couldn't find their luggage. An Aeronautica Scout. I've actually seen these for sale. What year is this? 1937. I've seen these from the 1940s models, but just a two-cylinder radial engine. Wow. I mean, two-cylinder, air-cooled. And this is like a drum. That's like tinned, and that's a drum. Wow. For some reason, I thought a balloon basket would be bigger than that. I was mistaken. And this was a guy, the curator was telling me, a couple of years after the Wright brothers did their thing, this guy made this four-wing stubby version to fly here in Kentucky, goofing off. And I asked him, where do you sit in there? And apparently, you sit inside this cage under the prop so that it doesn't chop your head off. And I guess this is the guy they're talking about that did it. Wow. These little stubby ones, these are for motors you're just test running. You're not trying to fly, but old heavy wooden props. Yeah, that's Stinson. That's beautiful. That's a lot of work, polishing that metal right there. Good God Almighty. There's your little baggage compartment. We'll be in and out. All right. Yeah, this is how they used to make planes. Now, the distance from here to here, there is a 0.0% chance I could fit in one of these things. That's like 30 some odd inches. A little bitty back seat, but nice looking. Yeah, I'd have to take the seats and cut it into the floor to try to fit in there. Whew. Cruise over here. I think that's an Austin Healy right there. Austin, yeah, 1956. Austin. Again, teeny tiny. I'm assuming that windshield folds up. No idea why that's here. Coming around here. Just showing the framework of the old planes here. Open cockpit. That's not a World War I fighter, that's just an open cockpit plane. Because it's got a regular enclosed non-radial engine, which is a good thing. Airway beacon from the 1920s and 30s. A little curious where they got their hands on that. You know, a car has got substantial framework and whatnot. That's the inner workings of an old plane. See, it doesn't even have a tail wheel, it's got a stinger. But see how that's cloth right there. But that's how light, because it's all about weight. Everything comes down to weight. And I'm going to go on a limb and say that's World War I uniform. And the guy was born 1896 and he died in 1990. That outfit right there would not fit a 10-year-old today. Just letting you know. That is tiny. I mean, like, tiny. And in World War II, they used these. These are the link trainer. You would close the door, put the hood over, and you're flying on instruments. It's to give you basic, rudimentary flight training. And it actually moved a little bit. And Audrey Hepburn's looking extremely serious right now for some reason. Well, hello. You know, the World War, this is kind of showing the changes. This is a very, very small version, but this is what the World War II engines look like. They're straight cylinder V8 motors, or V16 or V12. That's a straight motor. But this is the classic radial, and these are wonderful. And I saw something over here. And you see how the cylinders go around in a circle? Well, let me show you. They actually have this little thing here to show you how it works. And I thought someone spent some time building this little hot rod. Check this out. Back up here a little bit. That is how a radial engine works. Fires one cylinder at a time. See a little splash? Except it goes a lot faster than that. My dad had a neighbor who flew B-24s in World War II, and he said, you ever heard the expression, we lost a cylinder? He had a cylinder get completely shot off the airframe. It was gone, and the engine still ran. No idea how, but it ran. Made it all the way back to Europe, all the way back to Great Britain. All right, this is a double row. So it's literally got two separate rows of overlapping power versus this. This is the 985. But that's a single row. See what I mean? Single versus the double. And I saw this in another museum, but I think this is like one of the last radials made. Pratt & Whitney, Wasp Major. This is... yeah, they made these till 1955. 4,300 cubic inches. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Yeah, that's a tremendous amount of power coming out of some pistons right there. But this is more like the Navy Hellcats and the World War II fighter planes, naval fighter planes. I believe that's a Stinson. It's a Cobra Stinson. Let me see what it says. They're L4 on display. Yeah, that's a Cub. What's cool about these, and I've flown in these when I was a kid, is this door flips up, that window flips down, and you can literally fly with it open, just like that. Put your foot out on the skid and fly, and you're thumbing along at 75 miles an hour. I enjoyed that profusely when I did that as a kid. This prop has something to do with a race plane that Jimmy Doolittle flew. And it crashed, and I guess somebody saved the bent prop. These are pieces of Me-110 fighter planes. You can see the shot up, you see the swastika there, the remnants of the Swazi and the metal. It was recovered. And I've seen this in the movies. That's the control stick on a Spitfire, where the pilot is holding it like this, and then they push the throttle, push the firing button, which seems weird because I've spent my whole life with trigger. So that's a little awkward. That is a very large propeller. Okay, this is talking about the Doolittle Raiders. And if you're not familiar with the Doolittle Raid, remember the Japanese were kicking ass and taking names during the war. And they said, I got an idea, let's go put a stick in their eye. And they launched B-25s off an aircraft carrier to fly over Tokyo and scatter a few bombs. What was the damage they did? It's the fact that they did it. So suddenly the Japanese got paranoid, and they turned around and started trying to protect their land, their country more. Instead of being on the offense, they went to the defense. Yeah. And it freaked them out. It was a morale booster for the United States and a kick in the shorts for the Japanese, because they basically said our country is untouchable. Hey, guess what? It's not. Yank magazine. Huh. That prop right there, you see that one for the B-29? There was a B-29 they tried to recover in the early 90s up in the Arctic, and it ended up being a disaster. But that prop and that hub weighed 1,800 pounds. Stay in school. This is owned by a school teacher who literally flew around the schools and literally encouraged kids to stay in school. What a neat idea. That's a mock-up. We're going to walk around here. There's guys working on a plane. The plane's called the BD-5. It is a tiny kit-built jet, and I've seen one fly back in 1980, 45 years ago. And these guys had one in their barn for decades, and then they decided to put it together, and they're using this airport to do it. So take a quick look.
Oh, well, I'm downtown, so I would have to go out to Hamburg.
I'm just showing this part.
Back it out.
Yeah, that's cool. I already talked about that one. That's cool. I'm going to show you something else, a piece of history. You've probably seen this in the movies, but Kilroy was here. You remember that expression? That was a joke during World War II. There was a guy, apparently, that was in charge of inspecting equipment before it got shipped out, and somebody said that he wasn't doing his job right. He wasn't inspecting, so he started writing. His last name was Kilroy, and he would write, "Kilroy was here," on boxes. Well, then all of a sudden, everybody started writing that, and it just kind of became a catchphrase. I think that's the Norden bomb site. That was what the B-17s, B-20. I can't get the lighting here right. Where do we get in here? The Norden bomb site. You adjust here, your altitude, your airspeed, your crosswinds, and when they went on a bombing run, the pilot actually turned over control of the aircraft to the bombardier, and he was flying it with these buttons, making adjustments. He wasn't looking at it, he was looking through the sights up here. But literally, they would turn over like an autopilot, and he would make the fine-tuning adjustments, drop the bombs, and hit a switch and hand it back to the pilot. Then he would keep flying it. As the war progressed, they started using less and less bombardiers because they would bomb in what you could call a shotgun blast method. So one guy would aim and drop the bombs, and the other bombers would just watch him, and when he dropped, they would drop and use shotgun blast effect to hit the target. So the navigator or the gunner in the front would become a toggler instead of a bomber. There is a report in the Korean War that an F-4U Corsair came off the carrier, launched with the wings folded up. And as soon as he was flying with the wings up, and as soon as he hit the switch to drop the wings, the plane fell out of the sky. P-38 Lightning, see the little paint job there? It's got the holes right here. That's 450 calibers and a 20 millimeter cannon. And if you've ever seen one of those in the civilian market nowadays, they have giant lead blocks in the nose to hold it down because the weight and balance is off. This is not a fighter plane, but I want you to look at the cockpit. You have a radial engine, and the technology of World War I is that engine was incredibly inefficient, and it spewed unburnt fuel and exhaust. So you'd be sitting here eating exhaust gas and liquids and all kinds of crap would be getting on your face. And you see the pilots used to wear those big scarves. That wasn't a fashion statement. That's what you wiped your goggles off with, because it was constantly spitting on you. And there is a sailplane. I don't know anything about that particular model, but sailplanes are listed by their glide ratio. A training one's like 10-to-1, means you take it to 1,000 feet and let it go, it'll fly 10,000 feet in a straight line. Back in the early 80s, we had a guy that had one that was a 40-to-1. Absolutely incredible. There's that giant engine. But I want to wander back over to the military side. Yeah, that's an air inlet. That's a big air inlet. So it's kind of hard to do for this. Can't get too close to it. You pump it, you compress it, you light it, it's compressed, and you light it back here and it turns, gives you your thrust. Wow, that's a lot of moving parts. It's inlet, compressor, diffuser, exhaust. I'll walk you back in here. I'm sorry, I'm impartial to the military stuff. That right there, that fan is made by a company called Big Ass Fans for obvious reason. It's literally designed for hangars. There's something over here I wanted to see. Oh. That is a kit-built seaplane. See how the belly sits? It has no landing gear that come down. It's 100% seaplane, not an amphibian. Oh, two-seater hot rod. I can't get anywhere near it. I had talked the other day about ultralights and how god-awfully dangerous they are. that would be an example. That has two non-purpose-built engines that are two-stroke, so you're doubling your chance of dying. A single seat. Yeah, that's basically a flying death trap. That's why that's up there. But that's the early generation of just wing it ultralights that people were making, you know, whatever worked at the time. Got a lot of stuff hanging from the ceiling. Got a guy sitting here and talk to a little bit. Operation Iraqi Freedom. Yeah, the F-14 got pushed into attack mode in 2006. I mean, the late 90s, 2006, they retired it. Completely out of service. All right. I'm going to do one more pass by my favorite. Oh, the T-38, this plane. One of the stats about it, those little stubby wings, this aircraft's roll rate is 270 degrees per second. It can do 2 in 1 second. That's a roll rate. The older Cobras, by the way, had this is a 747 blade. The old ones had a 540. The blade was just flat. It was cut off. It's one of the things you can tell the difference if you've ever looking at them up close. This one needs a little bit of love. It's got some corrosion going on. Oh well. That was my hot rod. That is not supposed to be up there. That's just a hook to pick it up. Half the hardware is missing, but oh well. And they bent the anti-collision light. Alrighty. Okay, well, that's going to be my tour here. This museum's a little smaller than I thought it was going to be. This is the Kentucky Air Museum. They have an F-101 Voodoo outside, but you're not allowed to go out there for whatever reason. Something about this cannon, and I don't know why I remember this, but that gun will move 73 degrees per second. It'll go 110 degrees this way, 110 degrees that way, 13 to 21 degrees up and down so you don't shoot yourself down, and 60 degrees down. Why do I remember those numbers? I don't know. But that's your sighting system with the cover on it. Let's see if I can see the controls that was on. I don't even see it in here. Okay, that's awkward. Hold on a second. Let me walk around here. Because you would shoot the tow missile looking through the sights. And I don't see. Okay. Trying to do. Oh, the lighting's wrong. See the red button? That's your high-low mag. For your 13 to 21 power. To the right it says laser, which we didn't have a laser. And then there's a trigger. Your left hand's the trigger, but the control yoke looked like a mechanical pen. Let me see if I can find it. I'm trying to do this looking in the cockpit. Okay. See that? Looks like a mechanical pen right there. That's the control stick that you steer it, the missile. And it doesn't actually move. It just feels the pressure of your hand pushing on it. So you take your left hand, you go high mag, low mag. I think it was 4 and 13 if I remember correctly. Lays, fire, and as the missile was going, you would steer it. So the firing sequence, the aircraft had to be, the nose of the aircraft had to be within 5 degrees of the missile, because if you're sitting here looking at a target over here and you fire a missile from over here, it's just going to go whee, it's off into space. So you had to be within 5 degrees left or right, 5 degrees up or down, a 5 degrees roll. So you would pull the trigger, you would hear a pop and a whirl, which was a CO2 bottle firing a gas to spin the gyro. The launch motor would barf the missile out of this tube. It was just 150 Gs. It would literally just go thump. And then the missile would fly out here in front of the aircraft, and it would kind of cut out. And if you've ever watched a video, you can find these online. Tow missile shot from a Cobra, and they're on YouTube. you will see a blur of exhaust gas at a red light, and it kind of goes like this, and it disappears, and it's gone. And it only burns for 1.5 seconds, and it gets up to a breath below the speed of sound, and it shuts off, and then it just glides from there on out. Oh, and this is the air data system called the ADS boom. When you're flying, where's the? Okay, let me show you the reference point. All right, so what we're talking about. That is the pitot tube. Air goes in the tube. It tells you how fast you're going. It tells you have a heater on in case it gets full of ice. Let's walk over here real quick, show you some. There's his pitot. Again, same concept. Air goes down there and measures your speed. Every aircraft is different. Some are on the wingtips. Some are on the nose. Where's his? I don't see it. Oh, I guess he doesn't have one. No, it's somewhere. It's somewhere. Oh, there it is. There's his pitot tube right there. So they all have pitot tubes. Well, what happens with a Cobra is you have a limitation. You can fly 35 knots sideways and 30 knots backwards. So that's where this comes in. That is the pitot tube. Watch this. Whee! So if you're flying this way, it tells you what you're doing, and it'll slipstream. I bet nobody knew you could walk up and spin that thing, did they? But that's your pitot tube. It's called the air data system ADS boom, what they refer to that as. And the later model Cobras had that. The Vietnam era ones did not. And we have, real quick, this is the ammo compartment right here. It looks like people have been playing with it. There's 2 buttons. You have to push one and push the other to pop that open. Push that one and push that one in to pop it. Because in Vietnam, they would mount a 20 millimeter cannon right here. And the firing of the gun, which was here, the concussion of the gun would vibrate the door open, and now you're shooting your own door full of holes. I mean, it was an ugly thing when you're shooting yourself. Let me see if it shows the T-handle. I'm sorry, I'm still walking around this, but usually they black the windows out and you can't see in. Let me see if it's over there. And it's not. Okay. Yeah, this one has a different line. Wait a minute. Okay. See this little black line right here? It goes all the way around the window. If this aircraft, if you call it up and or crash and you're laying on the other side, the door on this side, the co-pilot gets out in the front. The pilot's door is on that side, so if it falls over, you have a T-handle in there that'll actually burn that and pop the window out so you can climb out. And I thought the T-handle was on the side. And on this one, it's the complete opposite. It's over here. And there's that little black line. But I can't remember where the handle was. Yeah, it was like a little safety handle, and it had a little pin you twist it. But yeah, I noticed they took the handles off because they had enough people opening the doors and letting themselves in. Yeah, I would have been guilty of that. Sorry. Okay. Well, this is it. This is the Kentucky Air Museum outside of Lexington. It's at the airport here. It's all indoors, I'm guessing. And if you want to come take a look, this is the place. I think they charge the maximum, most expensive ticket they have is like $15. A whole lot cheaper for kids. But I'll let you go for now. Thanks for tuning in.